Yo, what's up, boy Ghost here. Today I'm bringing you guys another comparison video between the Owen gun and MP-40. And I wanted to make this comparison because after Season 3, I feel like there's been a lot of just discussion on what the current situation is with the SMGs. Because if you guys, been paying attention, you would know that the Owen gun and MP-40 actually ended up both getting nerfed in this update. Which is kind of surprising for one gun, not so much the other. Like the Owen gun, I was expecting this nerf to happen for quite some time. Matter of fact, I was expecting this to happen back in like Season 2, like mid-season update Season 2. But it's obviously taken quite some time for the Owen gun to truthfully get nerfed. Whereas the MP-40 has gotten nerfed in the past, and I was actually very shocked to see it get nerfed once again. Because I don't really think it deserved another nerf. I more so felt like, if anything, I think the Owen gun should have been the only one to get nerfed, and maybe the well gun. But the MP-40 didn't really feel like a gun that requires the nerf. Like, it's still pretty good, but I didn't think it was that good to the point where something needed to change. But in this video, we're actually going to discuss on whether or not these two weapons are still like capable of being top tier SMGs and if they're still the meta. But before we do get into that, I want to say if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. We're under 2,000. We're about less than 50 subs away, so every sub does greatly help, and it's always very appreciated. Also, you guys can do me a favor of following me over at my Twitch channel at _. I tend to stream there, pretty often. I would say every other day, for quite a few hours. If you guys want to hang out, please do me a favor. But yeah, man. With that being said, let's get into the comparison. And here we have the recoil pattern for the Owen gun, and as you guys are going to see, nothing too crazy here. To be honest, the recoil pattern for the Owen gun doesn't really matter, just because this gun didn't get affected through its base weapon. More so, it's just attachments, just like the STG. And to be honest, I actually kind of like the direction they're taking with just doing attachments instead of the actual base gun, because I feel like most of the time it's just like really the attachments that are causing the problem, not so much the weapon itself, and they end up like making a change that just completely makes it really bad. Or on the other hand, they do make a nerf, and then the attachments just pretty much bypass that, which there's multiple examples of that throughout the course of Warzone. I'm actually glad that they instead decided to actually start nerfing the attachments over the main weapon. But anyway, speaking of those nerfs, I'm actually gonna put it up on the screen at some point just so you guys can see it for yourselves. But basically, the two changes that they did that are pretty significant were the nerf to the 72 round Recoil mag and the 142mm rapid barrel. Because those two are pretty popular attachments. The mag itself is the attachment that everyone uses when they're using the Owen gun, and that's the one that I use. And basically, what they did is they decreased the damage
Lights out!
which is actually very significant because the base damage of the Owen gun for these two specific areas are very, very high. So for them to decrease the multiplier a little bit makes it a little bit weaker. It definitely has been a little bit noticeable as I've been using this weapon. And that's kind of like a topic of discussion that's made people kind of question whether or not this gun is still good or not. I've heard some people complain about it, but for me personally, I think it's pretty solid. But there's more to that, and I'll explain that a little bit later. And lastly, they did nerf the 142mm rapid barrel, which is something that a lot of people started to trend towards like the end of Season 2. Me personally, I never made the change to that barrel, so I can't really tell you too much about it. But obviously, rapid barrel, rapid fire increase, or fire rate increase go hand in hand, and that's what they ended up doing. They ended up actually decreasing the fire rate by a couple percentages. Again, I can't really tell you the difference between that because I never used it. I don't know if people are still using that barrel. Probably are. But me, I'm still using, I believe it's the Shrouded barrel. It's the one that, I've been rocking. And, yeah, man, like I said, though, this Owen gun still definitely feels pretty solid. I feel like at times it does feel a little bit weak, especially against a well gun. And I know well gun's kind of coming out of nowhere, but to be honest, bro, the last few days since the update, that's the gun that's been giving me the most trouble with these weapons that I've been using. Like, I feel like every time I go up against a well gun, I'm always getting put down. And I will be making a video on that well gun pretty soon because, obviously with the new updates and whatnot, we gotta talk about every gun that is considered a candidate for top SMG, and the well gun obviously at some point was top 3. Still I would say is top 3. But especially now with like the Owen gun getting nerfed and whatnot, there's things to talk about there. But besides that, man, the Owen gun in my opinion is still pretty solid. But we're gonna look at some stats and talk it over to see what we got. But like I said, man, let's get into the MP-40 and some stats. And you have the recoil pattern for the MP-40, and again, this doesn't really matter because just like the Owen gun, the base stats or anything for this weapon just didn't really change. And matter of fact, I kind of gassed the MP-40 nerf because like when I first saw it and I saw it get nerfed, I'm like, oh my god, the MP-40 got nerfed. But when I took a look over at the patch notes once more, I saw that they only ended up nerfing the short barrel, which is something that only recently started to get a lot of attention. I believe it was Joe that was rocking that or began rocking that, and a lot of people just started following after him, and it was actually a good class setup. I never actually used it when people were really on it. I did try using it after the update. I didn't really like it because I felt like it took away what I liked the most about the MP-40, and that is the capabilities at range. The MP-40 for me has always been an SMG that could really do stuff at range, and a short barrel just didn't work with the way I wanted to play with the gun. And so I went back to the trusty class setup that I've always ran, and it still feels really good. But I will say this, even before the update, even before the Owen gun getting nerfed, I always saw this weapon as like the number 3 in terms of SMG rankings for Vanguard. For me personally, I think the top 3 was Owen gun, Well gun, and MP-40. And I honestly think that the only thing that's changed, even after this update, is the Well gun and Owen gun's placing. I haven't used the Well gun yet. I definitely tend to end up using that. That's probably going to be one of my next 2 videos of me just using the Well gun versus the Owen gun, because I really feel like the Well gun now could be seen as the, the best SMG in the game. Again, I can't really say for certain because I haven't used it, but, you know, we're going to have to figure that out later. But the MP-40 didn't get nerfed the way I thought it did. I really felt like this gun got significantly more nerfed, which, you know, I'm actually glad they didn't, because like I mentioned earlier, this gun definitely didn't deserve to get nerfed in any form. But, you know, whatever. With that being said, though, let's move over to the stats. For the first set of stats that we're going to talk about is the fire rate, where the Owen gun has a 500 RPM and the MP-40 has a 600 RPM. Now, again, bro, you can always use attachments to increase your fire rate, which I tend to do with both guns, actually. And so, to be honest, that whole like 100 RPM difference will remain no matter what, because, you know, I'm always going to have fire rate attachments on both the weapons, so nothing really... They increase the fire rate, but between both of them, I would say the difference still remains about the same. Now, moving over to the damage for 0 to 17 meters for the Owen gun. We got 56 damage to the head, neck, and chest, and then 39 to the stomach and extremities. Now, as you guys hear, both the head and neck damages are actually insanely high. But, as you guys know, the barrel, or the Gorenko mag, I believe. I forget which one. But the damage multiplier for those specific areas end up nerfed. But like I said, like I do think the Owen gun should have gotten nerfed in this situation, because 56 damage to the head and neck is pretty ridiculous. Yeah, I don't know, man. But they decided to let it rock, which is whatever. So, you know, if you guys were wondering if the Owen gun felt a little bit weaker, it may be the case, but at the end of the day, base damage is still pretty high. Whereas the MP-40 for 0 to 11 meters, you got 59 damage to the head, 42 to the neck, 36 to the chest, 33 to the stomach, 30 to the upper leg and arm, and then 27 to the lower leg and arm. So significantly weaker than the Owen gun, but the fire rate is where it's going to be able to stay competitive against the Owen gun. But even if the Owen gun did get nerfed, like I still see the MP-40 as the third option. A lot of people may feel differently with me on that, but that's okay. I still personally think the MP-40 is the third option. And even if the Owen gun got like a damage nerf, I would still think that the Owen gun would, you know, be superior. But that's just me. You know, you guys can have your differing opinion. And please let me know in the comment section down below. Would like to have a conversation with that. But anyways, man, moving over to the longer ranges for 17 to 21 meters for the Owen gun, you got 47 damage to the head, neck, and chest, and then 33 to the stomach and extremities. And then for the MP-40, you got for 11 to 16 meters, 47 damage to the head, 33 to the neck, 28 to the chest, 26 to the stomach, 27 to the stomach, I apologize, 24 to the upper leg and arm, and then 21 to the lower leg and arm. So again, the damage and difference right there is pretty significant, but, you know, I would say a little bit more closer now. Actually, not really, but at this mid-range, man, again, the fire rate would be the only saving grace for this MP-40. And the headshot damage. Headshot damage is still pretty ridiculous. And lastly, man, for these longer ranges, for 21 meters and above for the Owen gun, you got 31 damage to the head, neck, and chest, 22 to the stomach, and then 22 to just the remaining of the extremities, which is kind of crazy because the damage drop-off is significant here, whereas like the MP-40 obviously like was already weak throughout this whole time, but this is where it actually gets way closer and even has more of an advantage than the Owen gun, because for 60 meters and above, you got 41 damage to the head, 29 to the neck, 25 to the chest, 23 to the stomach, and then 21 to the upper leg and arm, and 18 to the lower leg and arm. So it's still like damage, or headshot damage wise, like it's still like even more significant now than the Owen gun at these longer ranges, and I think the MP-40 personally is way more suited for longer ranges. That's just how I've always used it and I love to using it. But you know, that's debatable. People have their own opinions on it. It's okay. But in conclusion, I will say that the Owen gun still definitely has the capabilities of being a top SMG in the game. Meta, I would still say so because a lot of people are still using it. And I would say people for the most part still believe that the Owen gun is top tier. The MP-40 on the other hand, I still don't think anything's changed for it. I still think it remains in the same place that it did at the beginning of this or before season 3, and I still think it's in the same place. But let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think, and talk to you guys later, and I'm out. Peace.